silver in the 4x200 meter relay. She now owns the record for the most medals ever by a U.S. female Olympian. NFL Hall of Fame game, preseason opener. Bears beat the Texans 21-17. The game was called late in the third quarter due to bad weather. No C.J. Stroud at quarterback for Houston. No Caleb Williams for Chicago. Brett Rippon had 3 touchdown passes. NFL quarterback news. Chargers signal caller Justin Herbert is in a walking boot for the next 2 weeks. Suffered a foot injury in practice. The team believes he'll be ready for the opener week 1. Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith is undergoing testing after missing the team's past 2 practices with hip and knee issues. In baseball, battle of division leaders, the Guardians beat the Orioles 10-3.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there, and I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you could pick up, you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to pick you, and our running back coach didn't take it. Biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning and welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. It's the Martin Houston Show powered by Box Eye Care. Dr. Daniel Box and his team at their new location on Oscar Baxter Road are waiting on an opportunity to serve you. Still great, same great service they've always provided. New location, new facilities, new services. And we'll be telling you more about those. You can call them at 205-342-0660 if you would like to get your eyes checked or get new frames, etc. They will take care of you. That's Box Eye Care. Dr. Daniel Box and his team are waiting to serve you. Go check them out at boxeyecare.com. Once again, you're tuned into the Martin Houston Show powered by Box Eye Care. Good morning, Edge. How you doing, man?
Good morning, doing well. How are you?
Oh, doing well, man. I cannot and would not complain. It's a beautiful morning and glad to be here with you, man. Glad to be up and at 'em on a free-for-all Friday. That's what we have today. It's kind of a free-for-all Friday. Of course, 2 days into the Alabama season, and we've already heard more from the defensive coach than we would hear in a year. So lots of good stuff coming out from the capstone after 2 days of practice, and we'll work some of that audio in. We will add Kennington Smith to the conversation. He may be popping in like this as he gets to go to practice a little bit more than we do. So we'll use him on Mondays, but we'll also, if he has something he want to break down, so he'll be joining us in the second quarter as well. Remember that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice, be glad in it, take some time to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. So, oh man, X, what have you heard, man? Just coming out of the Crimson Tide, out of the out of the capstone. Interesting conversation yesterday from Womack about certain players. But what are you hearing? You heard anything good yet?
Oh yeah, I mean, you're hearing about some of the young guys. Coach Womack had a lot of praise for Jalen Mbakwe. The growth that he's had. I think he said he's probably had the most growth of any of the DBs since spring. Of course, Ryan Williams, all the talk around him. He's the talk of the town as true freshmen who just got here and just getting started. You love to hear that when you're hearing young guys coming in making an impact or showing improvement early on in camp.
Yeah, I did yesterday. We talked about the possibility of Ryan Williams being Deuce 2.0. The Deuce is loose. So Chase, yesterday I put up. You need to go check it out. All of the following. I put up a David Palmer highlight video, followed by Ryan Williams, a brief highlight video of him, and then Ryan Williams in that number 2 jersey. And there's a play in there where I'm actually blocking for David Palmer, and man, he put so many moves on. It had me going crazy trying to block for the guy. Like I had to make, I think I had to make 4 adjustments before he got to the line of scrimmage on my guy, because he was jumping and following Palmer. But here's what Coach Womack had to say about Mbakwe. You mentioned that, so let's see what Coach Womack had to say as he calls him Bach. It threw me off. I was like, "Who is Bach? Who is Bach?" So that's what he calls him. So here's Coach Womack, Alabama's defensive coordinator, talking about one of his up and coming freshmen.
Is having an edge and just a confidence in the way that you play the game. And anybody that's watched Bach in the last few years of high school know the way he plays the game, and he really carried his team right to a state championship. And I've been so impressed with just his level of confidence, not really playing the position day in and day out of high school, but the strides that he's made from spring ball to where he is right now. I would argue that he's made as many strides as anybody in our defense.
So you want to hear that. I mean, that is exciting news if you are an Alabama fan and you know that that's an area X that they said was a potential weakness, and you want to hear some of that. He talked about other DBs. He talked about Sab and had something to say about him as well. Let's go ahead and hear what he had to say about him in terms of what he's able to bring to the table as well. So here's Coach Womack talking about Keon Sabb and what he brings to the table.
Yeah. Well, Keon is a very special talent. Obviously, he had some tremendous production, at Michigan, won a national championship there. And we were very fortunate to be able to have that production and that experience, because experience is finite, right? So for us, I think he has done a really good job of leaning into our scheme, what we do. I thought from day one, week one, he did a really great job of going the extra mile to get the verbiage and the terminology down so that he could go execute and play at a high level. And now you see him starting to lead on the back end, him, Malachi Moore. I think those guys are doing a tremendous job of communication on the back end.
Woo! X, if that doesn't get you excited, what has been the problem the last couple of years with Alabama's defense? Communication, mistakes, right?
Right.
And so when you look at the fact that he said Keon is starting to lead, and he said, and then he threw in Malachi, which tells you that Malachi has taken that coach on the field role. So good news there. If you're looking for another reason to get excited about Alabama football for 2024, those 2 clips should really get you excited that one of the freshmen is taking great strides and as far as anyone. And then the other side of that is the 2 veteran guys are leading in communication, which means that they can help the freshmen make fewer mistakes. We got Alan who wants to get in. Alan, I think I'm going to change the topic just a little bit, but that's okay. It's a free-for-all Friday. Alan, you're in on the hotline. What's on your mind, sir?
Good morning. Glad to have you back here for a day or two. Well, this morning, it's been an eventful morning already. I'm sitting at the truck stop this morning getting fuel. I go inside the truck stop, and these two people was in there. They were watching. They were saying, look at him go. He's gonna win the Olympics. He's gonna win the Olympics. They're watching the transgender fight the girl. And I just looked at it and I said, really? They said, oh yeah, really. They said, what's wrong with that? I said, that wasn't nothing but domestic violence. A man beating up a woman. Oh, and at some point we got into a little heated discussion, and I said, you know what? I ain't gonna sit here and argue with y'all because Mark, I'm gonna tell you, both of them look like they're about 6'5", and they could both of them could bring down Derrick Henry by himself. I mean, they were big. I said, you know, I ain't gonna get here and get whooped by these two. You know, they were big. I mean, they were some big people. I don't know what to call them. I want to be politically correct, so I ain't gonna say what I don't know what to call them. But they were big. And my point is this: why? How can you put a man that in the Olympics? He broke that girl's nose, and obviously he's stronger than that woman. How can the Olympics actually have that person in there fighting like that? That is crazy.
Unfortunately, it's a sign of the craziness of our society. I wish I could remember exactly how it was said, but it's pretty much the well, the scripture says that which is evil will be called good, that which is good will be called evil. But there's a quote out there that talks about that, we would get to a point where intelligent people will either just choose to be quiet because when they speak, the rest of the world interprets their intelligence as ignorance. I mean, as violent or biased, while those who talk up on the stupidity seem to be right. Were this two men or two women?
Well, they were dressed like women, but they were men because the force is deeper than mine.
Okay, there it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's so the craziest part to me, and I'll get off of this, and you can hang on if you have another football question after the break. But Alan, here's the craziest part to me. All of the people who are for that are also the same people who were fighting for women's rights, and I'm like, do you all not understand that this is taken away from women's rights? That young lady, born a lady, has worked her whole life to get to the Olympics.
Exactly.
And then to have that moment robbed by a man, I don't care what you call it. You can call him or her or him or whatever. Here's something I heard. I think it was just yesterday. There's two types of people. There's the woman and the man, and you can. And the guy said, if you go to the doctor, one of them can get pregnant and one of them cannot, no matter how much they try to say they can or want to claim something. The reality of it is this, is if that man who's now trans says, I think I may be pregnant, the doctor will not give them a pregnancy test. Why? Because he's a man. He knows he's a man. You can call yourself what you want. And the point he made was men are born one way, women are born another way. Now, if there's some type of anomaly that happens, then you deal with it. It's just like if human beings are born with two legs. If you see a human being with one leg, you know something went wrong. Because all human beings are born with two legs unless something went wrong. Men are born men, women are born women, and that's what it is. I always tell people this way. Every time I think of female, I'd say fetus, male, female, or woman, man with the womb. Whichever way you want to call it, whichever way you want to do it, the reality of it is we're in a crazy, crazy world. And I may have some listeners that disagree with me, don't like me, whatever. You have your opinion. I have my opinion. And I really don't have my opinion. I say my opinion doesn't matter. I base it off of what the Bible says. And that's where I set my opinion. And when my opinion disagrees with his, I go with his. Alan, did you have anything else, man?
Hey, no, I'm with you when you're white, Martin. I totally agree with you. The Bible clearly says Adam and Eve, not nothing but Adam and Steve. We'll leave that right there. Y'all gentlemen have a good day and welcome back.
Thanks. Come back on the other side. We'll get, and hey, listen, you're welcome to call up, give your opinions, your thoughts, whatever. You're welcome to them. It's a free for all Friday. I have mine. You can have yours. I'm going to live out mine and you can live out yours. Don't mean I won't speak up against it or for it. So I'll try to be consistent in what I believe, and you can do likewise. This is the Martin Houston Show. Thank you so much for being part of the program. We'll be back on the other side to keep things rolling. The phone lines are open at 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Our early morning drive times on this Friday are all in pretty good shape. Just 7 minutes along eastbound 2059 from Foster's to McFarland. If you're traveling westbound from Cottondale to the 359, about 8 minutes there. And 13 minutes on McFarland Boulevard from Coker down to Jack Warner Parkway. No major accidents dotting the board at this very early hour. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org.
Townsend Nissan is your #1 dealer, and they'll beat any written offer or pay you $1,000. Keeping you #1 keeps Townsend Nissan #1. See dealer for details.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at Unbound.org.
You're going to feel a puff of air.
Jong's Optometry has set their sights on staffing up.
Try the next line. Hey, Kim, can you tell our 2 o'clock we're running 15 behind? Sorry, we're a bit backed up today.
He needs an optometric technician to keep an eye on it all.
Where are the dilation drops?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Man, you ain't heard? They're doing it big in downtown Northport.
How big?
They got Bama tees up to 5X.
5X?
Eye-catcher screen printing and gifts in Northport has 3, 4, and 5X shirts.
Man, that's big enough to fit my cousin Larry.
Conveniently located next door to the City Cafe in downtown Northport. Eye-catchers is a great place to shop. They have the best prices on Bama t-shirts and also offer custom screen printing. Let Eye-catchers print shirts for your next event. 345-7762. Eye-catcher screen printing and gifts, where getting seen becomes an art.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. Heat advisories are in effect until 9 p.m. tonight. Temperatures in the upper 90s. Heat index values near 107 today. Expect intervals of clouds and sunshine. Be prepared for some scattered showers and storms this afternoon, though. A weak surface front moving southward could trigger some severe storms with isolated damaging wind gusts. Tonight, partly cloudy skies with a low of 74. Still a chance of a lingering storm early. Then tomorrow, expect sunshine with a high near 94. I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show, the sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team, on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Martin, you there?
Okay, it was like we lost Martin. We're gonna try to get him back on. So as we were going to break, we were kind of talking about, hey, fall practice has started. We've got some news and Friday, and normally you catch him with us on Mondays, but Kennington, glad to have you in on this Friday as we continue to talk with uh, this fall practice going on. How you doing this morning?
I'm good. And you are right, but I felt like in light of the first few days of practices and getting a chance to learn a few things and observe a few things that I felt like were interesting, I thought it was worth it to come on a Friday. So I appreciate y'all having me on, and hope you're doing well also.
Man, what have you seen from Coach DeBoer and how he's handling his first fall practices?
Yeah, I think the main thing is just the intensity of Kane Womack. I think is one of the big things that you notice off the bat. I think you're kind of going from the demeanor change of Saban to DeBoer. You figure that there might be some intensity lost there, but Womack is kind of bringing it. He's very vocal, very animated. I think that's noticeable. Staying on the defensive side, I think the Xavier Brown hype is very real. You heard about what he did in spring, kind of assuming the first team reps, and you wonder how that momentum was going to carry in a fall camp. And then yesterday, Womack said that, off the bat, he and Damani Jackson were really, really impressive at cornerback in the first few days. So I think the Xavier Brown ascension is something that's notable as well. And I think that battle with Deshaun Jones at that cornerback spot opposite of Damani Jackson is probably the most high-profile position battle of fall camp, and it looks like Brown isn't backing down from the vet Jones is at all, and might end up coming out of fall camp as a starter.
Oh wow,
Hey,
that's
can
pretty
y'all hear me?
impressive. Gotcha.
All right. Sorry about that, and it probably does sound frustration in my voice, and so it's real. I apologize for that. Thanks, Kennington. I was able to hear you guys as well. Go ahead with your question, Ed.
So with that, with the competition there, is that going to be probably the most intense battle during the start of fall camp, or do you think potentially the offensive line, that right tackle position, is that the go-to position battle, or with Formby and Pritchett and maybe Miles McVay in the mix there, or is it going to be that number 2 cornerback spot?
Yeah, I would say probably the cornerback spot for me is probably number 1, just because I think secondary is probably the biggest concern on the team amongst fans and the media, is that kind of reconfiguration of what's happening back there. I would throw in the edge rusher competition as well. I think when you look at the correlation of what was lost in production versus what returned, edge rusher probably has the most disparity of any position on the team. Secondary is a question, but at least Malachi Moore and Keon Saab have started and won championships as starters and played in big games. You don't have that same type of returning production at that edge rusher spot. So that's another interesting battle as well. And we got a chance to learn some things about that in the first few days. Also that I thought were noticeable. Quay Rousseau is starting to make a move, and I think that's something that I think fans are going to be pretty excited about. Obviously, he was a blue chip guy, and kind of learned yesterday from Christian Robinson that he's somebody that is starting to ascend and might, figure to play some snaps as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
and as we can
go ahead, Ed.
And as we continue to look at it, there's a lot of youth on this team, and I know a lot of people are kind of concerned with that. You have, of course, Coach Saban's gone, but the youth movement is probably going to have to be really vital on how this team and this season goes. How do you feel with the overall youth movement that's going to be an impact on this team?
Yeah, I think it was kind of two sides of the same coin thing when you think about the amount of youth on the team. On one end, it is a concern just because experience is finite, to quote Kane Womack, and you want to have experienced players. But also the fact that a lot of these freshmen in spring were able to early enroll and get some quality reps during spring practice, because maybe in a normal spring under Saban, the guys who got first and second team reps would be getting third and fourth team reps because of the amount of older guys that were on the team. But because Saban left, a lot of guys were able, left the program through the portal or whatever. Those freshmen were able to come in and get some high quality reps throughout spring. So I think their development was a little bit accelerated. And I think you're starting to see those dividends in fall camp when you think about Xavier Brown being able to continue to progress at a high level. Jalen Mbakwe is making plenty of strides. Red Morgan is making strides. I think it is going to end up being like a positive thing in hindsight. It might just take a little bit of time. So you are right. It is a young team. There are going to be some freshmen that are going to be counted on to either start, play rotational snaps, or assume a role on the two deep and be, called on to play should an injury or something happen. And that might be a little concerning on the surface, but these are, highly talented kids. And from, everything that we've observed and heard from the coaching staff, a lot of these freshmen seem to be picking things up well and are going to be in a position to contribute this fall.
Hey, Kennington, when you look at this, I know a lot of people, and this is Martin's opinion, but I think it's pretty valid. We've always had freshmen come in and play. We used to have guys come straight from high school, no spring practice, no summer, and come in and play. By the time these guys get to here, they are farther along than freshmen were 18 years ago. I mean, those freshmen that are true freshmen at Alabama, that they have been through an off season, they've been through a spring, they've been here all summer for the most part, and then you have a Ryan Williams who just showed up, and he's still ready. And so that's why I tell people I don't look at these freshmen the way we've not transitioned our mindset of what a freshman is. We still label them like we used to in the old days. They have better high school programs, weight, strength, and conditioning programs, especially big schools, these 5A, 6A schools. And so I know they've not played in an SEC game, but they practiced against SEC talent and one of the most talented rosters, whichever side you're on. So Martin's not as worried about them being labeled freshmen. That's just my thoughts. But I've not heard us as a media and fan base adjust our mindset. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I thought you made a really good point about just the level of competition and quality training that they're getting in high school. And I would also add in the fact that they're getting a lot of reps in 7-on-7. Football is like a year-round sport now.
That's
where
right.
Maybe, a couple of decades ago, you play football, but then you focus on other sports during the winter and the spring, and then you don't get back into it until maybe that fall. They're doing 7-on-7s. They're doing a lot of things throughout the year, so they're getting a lot of those reps. And that, I think a part of it is just maybe the hesitation to not put so much on freshmen because that with that experience gap, they are prone to probably making more mistakes than a veteran player. So maybe not like just putting so much on, a true freshman to say, they're just going to come in, seamless transition, be able to play and look like a Power 5 veteran off the bat. I think that's kind of where it comes from, but I'm starting to kind of wean off of that. When you hear the coaches and these players' teammates talk so highly of them about how their work ethic is and how they're picking things up and how well they're performing. Like once you kind of hear that validation from the powers that be, that kind of gives you the clearance to be able to say, okay, this guy's going to be able to play day one. That's why I think Xavier Brown, to me, has been one of the biggest storylines in the first few days. It's like you kind of heard good things in the spring, and then you think to yourself, okay, what's going to happen when the transfer portal guys come in the summer, more experienced guys come in the summer. Is he going to still be kind of in that same tier, or is he going to kind of fall back because experienced guys are coming in? But he's still, at the top of the heap along with some other guys as well. So I do kind of agree with your assessment. I think there's a couple factors at play, but hearing the coach's praise and the teammates' praise of those players has kind of opened the door to to raise those expectations.
Yeah, and as we go to break here, and we'll pick it back up on the other side, one of these guys that we're calling a true freshman is a high school senior, and we are not fearful of talking about him being on the field. And so I want you to sink in on that thought for just a moment. Is this guy came out of high school ready to play at the next level, and he should still be in high school. And I'll talk about that. We'll pick up that conversation on the other side. We have Kennington Smith III in for a special edition. I'm Martin Houston. That's Xavier Houston. As we go to break, I'm going to try this again. Get your officially licensed, co-branded Alabama swag, the Legacy Collection, premium jerseys, make fullbacks great again, and more. All you need to do is scan the QR code if you're on with us on Facebook and on the live stream, or that QR code will take you to the same place. You can type in athletesthread.com/collections/Martin-Houston. Get your officially licensed co-branded Alabama swag, the Alabama Legacy Collection, and more. We'll be back on the other side.
It's common knowledge that after age 30, our metabolism changes. We have less energy and gain weight easier. There's a way to feel better, not in years or months, but sometimes in just days.
I'm Chuck Norris. I tried everything. Working with a team of health experts, we came up with Morning Kick. Morning Kick is a revolutionary new formula that combines all my favorite supplements into one daily drink.
Morning Kick has probiotics to help you lose weight, prebiotics for digestion, superfoods for muscles and joints, and powerful anti-aging supplements. It'll help you feel youthful, energized, and helps manage stress.
I look and feel better than I have in years.
Go to roundhouseprovisions.com, use code SUPPORT, or text SUPPORT to 511-511 and claim 40% off. roundhouseprovisions.com, code SUPPORT.
Every purchase comes with our 90-day money-back guarantee. You could be feeling these changes within just a couple of days.
Text SUPPORT to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Julio Jones Kia in Tuscaloosa wants to ask you, what can you afford to pay for a new car? $199 a month? $299 a month? $399 a month? Less or more? You tell us. Right now, come see us, tell us what you can pay a month, and we'll do our best to get you in a new Kia. Maybe it's a Forte, a Sorrento, or even a Telluride. We give the highest value on trades in Alabama. Julio Jones Kia off Greensboro Ave. Stop in today or visit us online at buyfromjulio.com.
Buyers must have qualified credit. Not all buyers will qualify.
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. We're live, local, and got things rolling right here in your home for Alabama sports. We appreciate you being a part of the program. We have Kennington Smith III on with us this morning. Extra coverage there, breaking down what he's seen from practice, giving a shout out to Xavier Brown, saying he's making big time improvements. I'm convinced this is Martin, having went through it as a former player at Kennington. I came in as a freshman, had a chance to play, and Coach Curry said, "Hey, you could play. You're good enough to play, but you're gonna not going to get a lot of reps because you're behind a couple guys, so we can redshirt you or we can play you sporadically." And I said, I'd rather be redshirted and not, lose a year on just a handful of plays sprinkled in. Then I went through the off season. And dude, when spring rolled around, I was a different player because the summer before I came, I worked out, but nothing like what I did in the off season. And then that summer before, transitioned my body. These guys, because the reality of it is, I didn't grow any as a football player once the season started. You know, I mean, I was as good as I was going to be. Well, these guys get that whole year. They're the equivalent of a redshirt freshman, and no one's shocked at a redshirt freshman. But to your point, Kennington, think about this. If we were talking about an offensive lineman coming in and playing, then I would be more concerned. But we saw that, you know, Proctor did it, and we saw that happen. But DBs, man, do you know how many reps these guys get compared to what they used to get? Wide receivers get. You see what I'm saying? Like with the 7-on-7 quarterbacks, wide receivers, and pass catching running backs can grow as much in a summer as guys used to grow through a whole season of practice. Because route running is route running. And if you can adjust when you put the pads on, but you've got the timing and the technique down, dude, it's on. And I think that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. But I will acknowledge this, Kennington, to your point. Who was the best freshman on the team last year? Potentially the best player. Caleb Downs, right?
Caleb Downs. Yeah.
The Texas game and the Michigan game, what did he do? Made freshman mistakes.
Right.
So to your point, it's both, yeah, they're ready to play, but sometimes big moments can still get them, even if they're elite. But it could get anybody. But to your point, I just wanted to point out the dude that was on his way to potentially being, you know, the best ever play here, still in the biggest two biggest games, had critical mistakes. So let's bring in Pat really quick, and then we'll get back on this. Pat, you're in with X and Kennington. What's on your mind?
Hey, good. I'm glad we got Kennington today, too, because this question, if he's been watching practice, I want to know about LT Overton. That LT Overton was rated the number 6 player or so in the country in high school. Is he going to be living up to the hype and disrupt the backfield?
Yeah, the interesting thing about LT is that he actually has not been at practice this week. He's not feeling well. So they're hopeful that he might be able to get out there. Tomorrow is the next opportunity. But if he's not out tomorrow, maybe early next week. But Womack said hopefully the next day or two he'll be able to get out there. But he hasn't been at practice. But he is going to be, you know, a big part of the rotation. He's somebody that they're depending on to put pressure on the quarterback at that bandit spot. So, you know, Jamarian Latham is kind of assuming a lot of the first team reps at that spot. But when LT gets back feeling better and healthy, those two are going to be battling it out for some, you know, high-level rotation snaps.
Yeah, let's listen to what let's listen to what Coach actually addressed that position and expectations on yesterday. So let's see if we can hear what he had to say here. Just a second, or work this in. Coach Womack was addressing the edge rusher, which they're part of that edge rushing package. Pat.
Well, I think there's natural instincts, right, that are built into, you know, young men, right, and then there's developed. I don't know if instinct is the right word, right, but they hone in on their skills and they start to have an instinct for the scheme and what we do defensively. And the way we're structurally built is we want to allow our guys to be able to break on the ball, to play with some vision at times. And when you play with instinctive vision, the windows start to get really tighter. So people have a misconception of vision coverage, right, that it's all this space out there. Really what you're doing is you're taking away the grass and the people that the quarterback is wanting to get the ball to, right? And so you see our players naturally starting to get a little bit more matchy with some coverage when we play some of our vision style coverages and just having a better feel for our defense. You know, if you look at us last season and you look at us in the spring, I didn't think we started particularly well on defense early in games. And then we started to hit our stride as the game went on. We've really encouraged our guys to start playing, you know, not on their heels, but be the aggressor early. And that means playing with some instincts. And I think we're seeing that.
Yeah, and so he went on to talk a little bit more about those guys.
Well,
And
I
so
think,
here's
you
what
know,
it is.
you look at pressure a number of different ways, right? Some of it is just natural. Can we go 4 down and be able to, you know, create pressure on the quarterback off the edge? You know, we are very focused on takeaways here and creating takeaways.
Amen.
And you create takeaways by creating pressure on the quarterback, right? We looked at all 7, there was like 751 takeaways in the NFL last season. All right. And out of those, right, the vast majority of them come from the pressure on the quarterback, whether they hit the quarterback, got hands on the quarterback, or they were able to put him in an uncomfortable position to where he forced a throw. And so for us, I think we've got some guys naturally that can do that off the edge. You know, to me, Jamarian Latham, LT Overton, I think I've seen a lot out of that Wolf room right now. I think Keanu Coate, Quay Russaw, Q Robinson are doing some great things. And then you've got some younger guys like Yanze Pierre that are starting to step up. Keon Keeley off the edge to the field and Jordan Renat. I mean, I've really been pleased with some of the rush that we've been able to create. And then naturally, our backers and safeties have a lot of instinctive what we call blitz awareness. We look for that whenever we're recruiting players. Does a second level player have great blitz awareness? And I think we have that from a couple of our safeties and backers.
All right. X, I'll let you respond, and I'll let you respond, Kennington, because you mentioned a guy that he brought up earlier as well, but addressing what Pat was asking about LT and then of course he threw late in there as well. But exciting to hear him say we really focus on turnovers.
Yeah, when you look at the amount of guys that he talks about right there, that's deep, and that's a rotation. That's guys staying fresh and being able to contribute throughout the game. You know, you get your young guys in there, your depth guys in there throughout the course of the game. So in a tight game, you know, fourth quarter, you got your starters, your big dogs fresh and ready to get after the quarterback to potentially change games. And that's one thing I'm excited to hear about when you hear about some of the other guys down the stretch, you know, where it was 1 or 2 guys having to contribute for 4 quarters. Now you're talking about 3 to 4 guys. And I think that this is beneficial to everybody as a whole.
Kennington.
Yeah, first thing I want to say is on a lighthearted note, that soundbite that you played, everything that you just heard was in response to one single question.
Yeah,
that was like a 3-minute
yes,
like soliloquy on defensive philosophy and pressure, and then at the very end, he answered the initial question, which was kind of who's sticking out at the edge rusher position, and he kind of named the guy. So like,
yeah,
long-winded answer, all good stuff. But that's like the initial thing. It was just kind of funny to hear him do that in real time. I'm gonna offer up another quote. This is from Christian Robinson, who wasn't at the main mic, talking about Quay Russaw. He said, "I've told him that it is his time to be a part of what we're doing and to get out in front." And then he goes on to say, "I'm excited to see him do it at a high level this fall." So that to me sounds like somebody who has, you know, impressed in spring and really put in a lot of work this summer, and has kind of carried that over in the first few days of fall camp. So I think when we're talking about that outside linebacker, pass rusher spot, a lot of the conversation has been around Quandarius Robinson and Keanu Coate. But Quay Russaw has definitely asserted himself, and we kind of have a top 3 at that position, I think, and that's going to be interesting to see play out.
Yeah, because that was the name we briefly mentioned, but we didn't go into a lot of depth on. Pat, did that make you feel better about LT?
Yeah, man, you did, but X didn't get to speak yesterday. He had to be on assignment, and my question for X is, tell me about A.K. Deer. That I want this man in the rotation. Auburn got the best running back in Alabama. I want to know why. I want to know when A.K. Deer is going to commit.
I don't know when he's going to commit. He's stayed quiet since he decommitted. Like, I mean, he's been to Bama. He was at the cold summer cookout, but he's keeping everything close to the vest. And I still like where we sit, the position that we're in with him. Just going to have to really let this thing play out.
I think he's Pat. I'm gonna let you go, but I think he's gonna wait to see how they utilize running backs in this offense. If they only use 2 guys, he's not coming. If they rotate 3 guys, he's probably coming. Because he knows that only one of those running backs is leaving next year. And then the next year, only one of them is eligible to leave. So he would have to jump 3 really good running backs to get to the 3rd spot. I mean, the 2nd spot. So with a year or 2 on him. So I think that's what's probably going on there. All right. Thanks, Pat. We'll be back on the other side.
Thank you.
Put the finishing touches on this edition of the Martin Houston Show. I appreciate you being a part of it. Thanks.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We have a notable construction project had rolled out on the U of A campus yesterday. This is a closure of the southbound lane of 2nd Avenue between Coliseum Circle and 15th Street for a repaving project. The northbound lane remains open as that work goes on. No big accidents or breakdowns dotting the board for the moment. The drive on 2059 and McFarland, as well as Lurling Wallace, all remain in good condition. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Friday morning. Joshua Jones, a former Walker County Corrections officer with the Sheriff Department, has agreed to a plea deal with the U.S. Attorney's Office. It's in connection with that January 2023 death of Tony Mitchell while in custody at the Walker County Jail. The U.S. Attorney's Office says more news, sports, and weather coverage. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Friday edition of The Game, we're going to get you ready for another big weekend of Alabama Crimson Tide football. A couple of different practices on Saturday and Sunday. We're going to preview those and a lot more. We'll talk to Brent Beard. We'll do our Free For All Friday, sponsored by Brian Harden Construction, with your phone calls right here on The Game, starting at 2 p.m. on Tide 100.9, 1230. WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Townsend Nissan is your #1 dealer, and they'll beat any written offer or pay you $1,000. Keeping you #1 keeps Townsend Nissan #1. See dealer for details.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by the Alabama Department of Labor, ABA, and the station. The Alabama Department of Labor is an equal opportunity employer program. Auxiliary aids and services available upon request to individuals with disabilities. Dial 711 for TTY accessibility.
Do you have a renovation vision for your home? Let Shoot Masonry and Specialties transform those tired spaces in your home into vibrant havens. Whether it's a culinary dream kitchen, spa-like bathroom, or the warm glow of a brick fireplace crackling on a chilly night, let Shoot Masonry and Specialties create your vision into stunning reality with complete renovations. Experience the wow factor. Contact Shoot Masonry and Specialties at 205-887-3807 today and unleash your home's full potential.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. It's the 4th and final quarter of the regular program. I want to encourage you to stay with us as we move throughout the morning. Had a couple of technical glitches, but figured out what's going on there. Want to remind you, go check out your Martin Houston Show swag. You can just click the QR code or go to martinhouston.org and click on shop, and it'll take you to the page, and you can see the Martin Houston Show swag and Love God, Love People swag. And highlighted right there is a pink cat. So if y'all have a lady in your life that's a big sports fan, we have some swag geared just for her. So just click the QR code or visit martinhouston.org and click on shop. All right, guys, as we continue to move throughout the morning, the Martin Houston Show powered by Box Eye Care, gonna have a little OT, but Kennington, anything from your side that just jumps out or that you want to highlight that we may not have hit yet?
Yeah, I think what you said about AK Deer and the running back rotation is really interesting because when what we've observed, it truly is a 1A, 1B thing with Justice Haynes and Jam Miller, which isn't surprising. I wonder what the distribution of, first team reps Richard Young is going to give, if he's going to get any during fall camp. You talk about the possibility of a 3 running back rotation. From what I've gleaned, if Justice Haynes is leading one drill, Jam Miller will lead the next drill. If Richard Young is working with Jalen Milroe one day, Jam Miller is working with him the next day. They do seem to be working in tandem on that one line. Is it possible that Richard Young can close the gap and assume some of those spots? Because the running game is going to be pretty diverse. Haynes is going to get his touches. Miller's going to get his touches. Jalen Milroe is going to be involved in as well. Is there a piece of the pie in there for Richard Young? So I'll be interested the next time we get a chance to talk to Robert Gillespie, whenever that is. Maybe it'll be tomorrow. But I want to know how close is Richard Young to those 2 other guys. And that is going to be, I think, it's not obviously a main storyline, but something kind of underlying that I think is going to be interesting to watch in August.
X, you have anything for Kennington, or you got anything else you want to specifically hit?
Kennington with the continued additions of what this coaching staff has done and the new guys, who's been the most exciting guy you've seen on both sides of the ball so far through the limited time you've had?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go back to Ryan Williams. Somebody I think that's been exciting. Obviously, just the hype that's surrounding him, and I think when you listen to people talk about him, it's kind of living up to that. Another player that I'm really excited about is Kendrick Law. Just seems really explosive. You see the frame that he has, and it's been almost overstated at this point that he ran 23.6 miles per hour. He benches 450, but if you get a chance to actually see him kind of in the jersey and the shorts working out, you kind of see that frame, you see that explosiveness. So somebody who flashed a lot last year when he had the ball in his hands, somebody I think is going to get a lot of touches this year. Somebody that I think could be a potential breakout candidate. So those are 2 wide receivers that I think have looked good and looked explosive, and I'm looking forward to seeing more from them in August.
All right. And I have been waiting on them to use Law. To me, he's like Debo with the 49ers, which once again may eat into the carries of, a guy like Young. I mean, you have, 3 legit ball carriers that could all go for 1,500 yards, including your quarterback, but you have a guy like Law. So I think, like I said, I think that Deere may be waiting. He may not be. He may not be afraid to come in and battle and be willing to wait, because it's played out pretty well for the Alabama running backs in the past. Kennington, when you had to sit down, your opportunity to sit down with Coach DeBoer, what was your biggest takeaway from having a chance to talk with him earlier this week?
Yeah, when sitting down with DeBoer, I think obviously whenever you're talking about what he's been able to do ascending to this role, you think about the X's and O's, but in the conversations that I've had with him and then talking to people around him, the Jake Hayners, who he coached at Fresno State, Michael Penix and others at Washington, and going back to his Sioux Fall days, there's something about him a little bit more intrinsic than just the X's and O's. And that's just his kind of priority of building relationships and how he kind of blends different cultures together. And that's kind of what I wanted to write about. And that feature is up on The Athletic, just kind of talking to him about kind of getting the people part of it right, hiring the right people, doing things that are necessary to blend cultures and build proper cultures, and how that affects the people in the building, and then how that translates to success on the field. So got a chance to learn a lot about kind of just how he sees things and kind of how those different experiences have kind of shaped who he is. And I think it's something that people would enjoy reading. I've got some good feedback on it at The Athletic and otherwise, so I would encourage everybody to go check it out.
Yeah, if you go back and look at his interview after the press conference, I should say, it was amazing how many times he mentioned relationship. Almost every answer that it could be inserted, it was. And do you think that let me see, how did he put it? He said that is the biggest strength for me and my coaches, is that we build those relationships in that conversation on yesterday. How important do you think that it has been and will be as they go through, no matter how good this season is, there are going to be a couple tight moments in games and or after a game if it doesn't go the way Alabama expects?
Yeah, I think it's going to be critical because at the end of the day, these players have to trust him, and the coaches have to trust that he is putting them in the very best position. And he's had experience doing this. This is not the first time that he's followed a highly successful coach. He did so at Sioux Falls. He did it at Fresno State with Jeff Tedford. Did it at Washington with Chris Peterson. Obviously, this is the most high profile and the most successful of those coaches in Nick Saban. But that's something that he's done kind of everywhere that he's been. So coming in and building that relationship with the high level players on the team and earning their trust, and, you know, having the players think, okay, we are losing Nick Saban, but we feel, you know, as confident in what Coach DeBoer is going to do, is going to be really critical when you get into those tight moments, that they're going to be able to trust the play call, trust the strategy, and then go execute it at a high level. So I think that relationship building is just as consequential as what is ultimately going to happen on the field. By all accounts, they've been able to kind of blend the cultures, and it's on a good trajectory. But as we all know, ultimately what's going to ultimately decide it is what happens on the field this fall.
Yep. X, closing thoughts?
Hey, football is back. Practice just kicked off, and it's been exciting to hear and learn about some of the guys that have made key impacts already and guys that are looking impressive.
We're talking football. Kennington, tell them where they can find you, man. I appreciate you jumping on this Friday morning.
Yeah, no doubt. On Twitter/X at @SkinnyKenny_ theathletic.com or The Athletic on your mobile app, searching Alabama football, my name, anything related to Alabama athletics, you'll find what we got going on.
All right, and to go check out that interview he did with Coach DeBoer, I think showing the other side. I love his Tell the Truth Sunday. Hopefully he'll be able to tell the truth about the good, not the bad, and the mistakes, as he referred to it, versus the good, bad, and ugly. Hey, we're going to go to a little OT. I'm going to talk about Coach Womack and what he meant by vision coverage, in my opinion. This is my thoughts, and about closing the space in the grass. Sometimes we don't understand fully what he's talking about. Sometimes people think you have to cover that whole area. No, you just have to know how many guys can threaten your area and make sure that you close out on those guys. So I'll break that down on the other side with a little Martin Houston Show OT. It's been a free-for-all Friday. We want to thank our sponsors, and specifically it's been the Martin Houston Show powered by Box Eye Care. We'll be back on the other side.
It's a celebration. Celebrate good times. Come on. Let's celebrate.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your
right, let's keep the conversation rolling right here on your home for Alabama sports. It is the Martin Houston Show with a little OT this morning. We're going to add Coach Womack to the conversation here, replay one of his comments in regards. He was responding to a question around edge rushers, and he explained a lot of things. And in doing so, he talked about vision and instincts and coverage. So I'm going to talk about, I want to just break that down. Won't be a long OT today, but just want to go back and dig in a little bit on that. Here's Coach Womack talking about the edge rushers and how to get pressure and working on the coverage aspect of things.
I think, you look at pressure a number of different ways, right? Some of it is just natural. Can we go 4 down and be able to, create pressure on the quarterback off the edge? We are very focused on takeaways here and creating takeaways. And you create takeaways by creating pressure on the quarterback, right? We looked at all 7. There was like 751 takeaways in the NFL last season. All right, and out of those, right, the vast majority of them come from the pressure on the quarterback, whether they hit the quarterback, got hands on the quarterback, or they were able to put him in an uncomfortable position to where he forced to throw. And so for us, I think we've got some guys naturally that can do that off the edge. To me, Jamarian Latham, LT Overton, I think I've seen a lot out of that Wolf room right now. I think Keanu Coate, Quay Russaw, Hugh Robinson are doing some great things. And then you've got some younger guys like Yanze Pierre that are starting to step up. Keon Keeley off the edge to the field and Jordan Renat. I mean, I've really been pleased with some of the rush that we've been able to create. And then naturally, our backers and safeties have a lot of instinctive, what we call blitz awareness. We look for that whenever we're recruiting players. Does a second level player, have great blitz awareness? And I think we have that from a couple of our safeties and backers.
And guys, actually, I flipped this audio. Here's where he was talking about the coverage piece. But I'll tie those two clips in together.
Well, I think there's natural instincts, right, that are built into, young men, right? And then there's developed, I don't know if instinct is the right word, right? But they hone in on their skills and they start to have an instinct for the scheme and what we do defensively. The way we're structurally built is we want to allow our guys to be able to break on the ball, to play with some vision at times. And when you play with instinctive vision, the windows start to get really tighter. So people have a misconception of vision coverage, right? That it's all this space out there. Really what you're doing is you're taking away the grass and the people that the quarterback is wanting to get the ball to, right? And so you see our players naturally starting to get a little bit more matchy with some of their coverage when we play some of our vision style coverages, and then just having a better feel for our defense. If you look at us last season and you look at us in the spring, I didn't think we started particularly well on defense early in games. And then we started to hit our stride as the game went on. We've really encouraged our guys to start playing, not on their heels, but be the aggressor early. And that means playing with some instincts. And I think we're seeing that.
I don't know if you guys picked up on that or not, but there's several terms, and I'm going to hit all of them. But he said, I looked at our team last year and in spring. So he's not just talking about the DBs for this year's team. He's talking about the way Alabama played defense last year as well. He said they didn't really start the game instinctively. They would start off slow. And he said even in the spring, they did the same thing. How many of us remember the beginning of the spring game this year where it seemed like guys were running open and different things like that? And so one of the first things I think that Womack is going to bring to this particular defense and to this team is instincts, playing instinctively, just letting that talent and ability take care of itself, all the way from the DBs, which he talked about in the first clip, where he says some of our safeties and cornerbacks have an instinctive blitz capability, and they're not hesitant. And so when you're instinctive and not hesitant, you play faster. You play, loose. When you are cautious or thinking, then you hesitate. And if you're hesitating against a guy that runs a 4.3, and you hesitate just an instinct, they're gone. They're by you. And so I love the fact that he's talking to these guys, not just this defense, not just this year, but the philosophy of playing instinctive. Now let's talk about what he's talking about in this vision coverage. And he used several terms there. He talked about windows. And nobody did this better than Homer Smith. Homer Smith taught us about windows. And he says that there's always, based on the number of receivers, there are 4, 5, 6 windows based on how many receivers they have out in the route. Okay. If you have somebody run, a corner route, then there's a window and based on how the defense is playing, if they're playing a zone type matchup type of defense, there's a cornerback that has the flat area and maybe 10 to 12, and then the safety has the deep half. Well, if you send that corner route where they go 12 yards and then they kind of angle to the sideline, there's a window in between the defensive back and the cornerback. Well, there also is a window in front of that defensive back where you could swing a running back. Well, then you have the 2 safeties, for instance, in the middle of the field. There's a window between them. And then you have, of course, the same thing happening on the corner, on the other side of the corner. Then you have your 2 linebackers. Based on how you play the 2 linebackers, there could be a window between them, and there could be a window between the 2 inside linebackers and the corners. Then if you drop your outside linebacker or your defensive end, whatever you want to call them, out, you create another window. Well, so all of those windows, receivers, if it's not man coverage, and he wasn't talking man coverage there because he used the word matchy, and the guy that the quarterback want to get the ball to in their area. So if you're looking at that, that tells you that they're playing some version of zone looking defense, maybe some type of matchup zone, and maybe it can man under and all those different things. But the reality of it is every play, there are receivers going somewhere, okay? There may be 5 wide receivers on the field. But if you're the outside linebacker, there are only so many guys who can threaten your area, okay? So if there's one running back in the backfield and you're the outside linebacker and you have the flat area, and the running back goes the other direction, you now do not have to worry about a guy coming out in front of you to take up that area. So once the running back goes away from your window, you now know they had one wide receiver on your side of the field. If that wide receiver comes and runs a drag route, he's going away from your zone. So you now know the running back went away and the guy in my area went away. So what do I instinctively have to do now? I instinctively have to know, okay, the quarterback could scramble to my area, right? But the other receivers, the tight end, if there was a tight end to my side, he could potentially run a flat route and be in my area. Okay, so boom. If I see him go straight down the field, I now know that he's not a threat to my area. So now I'm going, okay, there could be some type of drag route from the backside wide receiver. That's it. There's no one else to come to my area if that happens. But let's say that it's the opposite of what I just did. Let's say the running back swings to my area. Let's say the wide receiver runs a curl route, and then the tight end goes straight down the field. Well, if the tight end fires off and he's going straight down the field, he's not a threat. That wide receiver that curled behind me into that window that was created between me and the linebacker, he's a threat, or the running back's a threat. Well, which guy do you worry about first? you look and go, okay, I got a guy there. If he hooks up close to my area, boom, I'm closer to him. If his curl route takes him closer to the inside linebacker, then my eyes go where? I know he's there. Now I'm looking at this running back. And then you understand the other part is you learn what's the quarterback's progression. If the quarterback comes to your side, if he opens up and he looks to your side immediately, who does he want to get the ball to? He either wants to hit that running back or he wants to hit that curl route. If he goes the other way, if he looks away from me, then I understand, okay, that running back out in the flat is probably his drop-off guy. That's his emergency release route. So what's going on behind me? Because he has to go through his progression. And then when he gets to your side, if you know what's available in your area, right? If you know that there's one guy in the window beside you, one guy in the window in front of you, you now know where to play. And he says it can be tighter. You close out the grass. The grass just means that the distance between you and the guy who's a threat in your area. So lots of things there. And the more you rep that, the more you see that, the more you study film, the more instinctive you can become. So we'll be back on Monday to keep the conversation rolling. We'll add Kennington Smith III back to the conversation. I hope that gives you a little insight into what he was saying when he was saying windows and grass and matchy and instinct. Now, that's my interpretation based on when I played. That's what that would have meant. And I assume that that's probably what he means as well. Hey, we'll be back on Monday at 6 a.m. Glad that you've chosen to be with us. If we have an opportunity, we'll make an update over the weekend if there's anything that breaks. So make sure you follow The Martin Houston Show on Facebook. Remember, you can go out and support by getting your swag. Go to the athletecsthread.com/collections/Martin-Houston. And of course, you're tuned in right now. So all you have to do is click on the QR code and it will take you to the officially co-branded Alabama swag, the Legacy Collection, premium jerseys, make fullbacks great again, and more collection. And hey, be looking for some contests be rolling out in the month of August for opportunities for you to win some of that swag. And hey, if you get any swag, take a picture and send it to me. Email martin@martinhouston.org and be a brand ambassador for me. Appreciate all that you do. Remember this, trust in the Lord always, lean not your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Roll Tide, everybody. We'll catch you on Monday. And don't forget, if you get a chance, come check us out at Harvest Church on Sunday at 10 a.m. Roll Tide, and we appreciate you being a part of the program. And, hey, go be great.